Hey, what's up, guys? Max here. Let's talk Mastery Loadouts. The news and announcement by Kabam is officially out today. We knew about this part of the CCP going into kind of the announcement today that they were working on these loadouts. Now, what does that mean to you? How is that going to help you? How is that going to benefit you? If you've been playing this game for a couple of years now, you've been asking for this and asking. And I think ever since Kabam started live streaming, there's been at least one person in their live stream that's constantly said, hey, where are the mastery loadouts? Where are the masteries? Tell us about masteries. Well, when looking at masteries, a lot of us basically hit the recover button right there in the middle and have to plug in every single one, and then that's how you switch your masteries. Well, the big announcement today on their website, on their Twitter page too as well, that linked it to their website, is the mastery loadouts. And kind of like what that entails, basically, let's cover it now. There's going to be 3 loadouts you can choose from, okay? And those 3 loadouts are going to be available for all players. There's no restriction, I believe, on like title or like being able to purchase. I thought at first that they were going to sell them like, hey, you have to unlock the loadouts, but no, they're just giving us 3 loadouts. We're going to be able to choose and name them according to whatever you want. And use them for whatever game mode you want, basically, and how like this works. And when is this going live? So this is going to go live on the 1st. Now, one thing to note about the 1st, between the 1st, April 1st through April 8th, we will have a free mastery cost. So basically, there will be no cost associated to speccing, undoing, redoing your masteries, and that is to kind of like help you figure out what is the best masteries for like your first loadout. Lock that in. Redo your masteries. Second loadout, lock that in. Third loadout, lock that in. Me personally, because of the way I play the game and part of the alliance that I'm in, I think we're definitely going to have a arena loadout. We're going to have a questing loadout, which I'll use my questing loadout to be a little bit more like a universal loadout, meaning like a loadout that helps multiple players that doesn't have the sides on. Okay. And then we're going to have a defensive loadout. So those are going to be my 3 loadouts. I'm already thinking about it, how I'm kind of set it up at the moment. It's going to be completely different than kind of my offensive loadout right now, because now I can just respec them. Now, just be very careful with these switches too, because there is a cost involved. Now, the cost involved is 35 units for the switch. So let's say you're doing Alliance War and you're about to attack and you've been doing arenas for the last day or so, right? And you're like, hey, well, the defender that's placed in front of me cancels out my willpower. So I do want to use my regular loadout which doesn't have recoil. I want to do that fight. You do that fight. It's going to cost you 35 units to go into that loadout. I was going to call it loadout number 2. And then I want to go and I finish my fights. Now I want to go back to arenas and I want to activate my sides on, which is in loadout number 1. So it's going to cost you another 35 units. But if you're constantly switching your loadouts because you're like, hey, I just want to not run sides at the moment and not want to run them now, it's going to cost you a lot. I don't think that's where it's meant to be used. But it's really meant to be used maybe in those examples. Now, when it comes to Alliance War, Kabam does make a bit of a comment here on that on this paragraph right here. It says, after the current season is over, which is April 10th, if you want to set one of these loadouts as your Alliance War defense, there will be a checkbox for you to select to do so. So from my understanding on this is basically this. You're going to have 3 loadouts. I just explained at least mine. Arenas, questing, no sides, right? And then one of them is going to be for Alliance War. So this Alliance War loadout can be like basically high MD, some of the best masteries for defensive purposes, and just depending on your champions too, and just load it out as your Alliance War defense. But if you click that checkbox, it's not going to cost you 35 units for every time that Alliance War starts. From my understanding, by you clicking that checkbox, you tied your, again, we're going to call it defensive loadout, and that is going to be the loadout that you're going to be using basically for Alliance War all the time, and unless you decide to do some changes or don't click that box or something like that. Again, we're going to see how this actually works once it goes live. Part of the CCP, we knew about this, but we didn't test it, or at least not that I was aware of. to be able to play around with it, to see how it works. So I think that is assuming here. And I hate to do that on a lot of these posts because there is a lot of information that it's kind of like I misunderstand the information, but that's how I'm reading it. And it's not going to cost me 35 units for every time Alliance War starts. It's just going to have that specific loadout for my Alliance War. Now, if I want to attack on the attack, like I said, I used the example earlier, that is going to cost me to swap between the loadouts, so 35 units. But I think overall, guys, I think this is a big win for the community. Like I said, we've been asking for this for a long time. It comes at a moment where there is a lot of issues in the game at the moment. I think a lot of us as players are finally coming together to realize, hey, you know what? The game is kind of busted at the moment. There's Alliance War issues. There's AI issues. There's Miss Perry's input issues, I guess you want to call it. A lot of that happening right now in the game. I don't know if it has to do with the mastery loadouts coming to the game soon. I know there's probably, be patient with it. That's kind of like just maybe some wise words I can share with you guys. It's probably going to come in with some bugs. I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't, even if it doesn't bug out at the launch date, it will probably eventually in the future have some kind of issue with the loadouts not locking in, or maybe costing you more than it should, or maybe not costing you at all, like meaning the 35 units that it does cost to swap out. So those are going to be like things we're going to run into for sure. But overall though, guys, the fact that it's being added now in 2024, it's a little late, but I'm glad. I'm also open. I'm hoping they're open to like changes to these loadouts and kind of like the way they're set up, right? I'm sure that this has been discussed with them a lot in depth with how the cost is involved, how many loadouts we're going to have. It doesn't tie, by the way, guys, very quickly. This does not tie into your Battlegrounds loadouts. It's part of the post. They mention it there. When it comes to Battlegrounds loadouts in your deck, you have deck and you see where it says Masteries. It's not going to tie into that. That is separate. This is a separate Mastery setup for Battlegrounds game mode inside the game. These loadouts are going to affect everything from like questing, arenas, Alliance War, it depends, just everything outside of Battlegrounds basically are these loadouts basically good for. So I'm super excited for it. Can't wait to like mess with different masteries. Again, free masteries coming April 1st to April 8th. Keep those dates in mind. No cost involved on the mastery swaps and changes, but let me show you very quickly towards the end here, kind of like what my mastery loadouts or current loadout is looking like. This is mainly for questing and also for like arena. There's no specific like, hey, I have these points there. I just have these points because it costs me less. It costs me no units to do that. But now that we're going to have loadouts, I'm going to redo my masteries to where it actually has a benefit for me and my champions, whether it's on offense or defense, when it comes to like loadouts, right? So be on the lookout for those mastery swaps and kind of like what I'm using, mastery loadouts for 2024. And that's going to be exciting. I can see it now. Max's Mastery Loadouts 2024. Take care, guys. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.